Love and compassion are necessities, not luxuries. Without them, humanity cannot survive. The Dalai Lama, the 14th. Over the last several months, we have listened as Dr. Mark Davies talked to us about the 7 principles of Unitarian Universalism. As I listened, I came to understand that the root of all of them is compassion. We hear the word compassion tossed around all the time, especially during critical events. But what is it? What is it not? How do we practice it? Why do we need it, and what do we get out of it? Merriam-Webster.com defines compassion as sympathetic consciousness of others' distress, together with a desire to alleviate it. In a 2016 paper titled An Empirical Examination of the Factor Structure of Compassion, scientists Jenny Gu, Kate Kavanaugh, Ruth Baer, and Clara Strauss discovered that, quote, compassion has been defined as consisting of the following 5 elements. 1. Recognizing suffering. 2. Understanding the universality of suffering in human experience. 3. Feeling moved by the person suffering and emotionally connecting with their distress. 4. Tolerating uncomfortable feelings aroused, for example, fear or distress, so that we remain open to and accepting of the person's suffering. And 5, acting or being motivated to act to alleviate suffering. Compassion is not empathy. Compassion takes empathy one step further because it harbors the desire for all beings to be free from suffering, and it's imbued with a desire to help. So, action. This is the difference. While empathy stops at actively sharing in the emotional experience of others, compassion includes a desire to relieve the distress that they are feeling. Compassion is not pity. Glennon Doyle, the American author and activist, says, compassion does not just happen. Pity does, but compassion is not pity. It's not just a feeling. Compassion is a viewpoint, a way of life, a perspective, a habit that becomes a discipline, and more than anything else, compassion is a choice that we make that love is more important than comfort or convenience. Compassion is not thoughts and prayers or the simple posting of an emoji. There's been a huge movement on social media in the last year about the hypocrisy of thoughts and prayers from those who see it as a substitute for real action in the wake of domestic or foreign terroristic acts of violence. Within the Christian tradition, it negates the directive given by the brother of Christ in James chapter 2, verse 14 through 16, from the modern literal version in 2017. What does it profit, my brethren, if someone says he has faith but does not have works? Is that faith able to save him? But if a brother or sister is naked and may be deficient of daily nourishment, and any one out of you may say of them, go in peace, be warmed and fed, but you do not give them the body's requirements, what does it profit? So also your faith, if it does not have works, is dead in itself. Muslims also believe that acts of compassion are a central tenet of their faith. From the Quran, chapter 99, verse 7 and 8, So whoever does an atom's weight of good will see it. And whoever does an atom's weight of evil will see it. In modern language, this means that even small acts of kindness are meaningful and will not go unnoticed by Allah. Opportunities, large or small, to help others are equally important. No one is excluded from kindness and compassion, human or animal. The German philosopher Arthur Schopenhauer wrote, "The assumption that animals are without rights and the illusion that our treatment of them has no moral significance is a positively outrageous example of Western crudity and barbarity. Universal compassion is the only guarantee of morality." It might comfort you to know that compassion is natural. A growing body of empirical evidence suggests that at our core, C.S. Lewis was correct when he stated that everyone has a knowledge of what is right and what is wrong. Both animals and human beings have what's been called a compassionate instinct. This means that compassion is a natural and automatic response that has ensured our survival. We are, in fact, social animals, so being pro-social allows us to continue being part of our society. Darwin himself comments in his works, The Descent of Man and Selection in Relation to Sex, that, quote, communities which included the greatest number of the most sympathetic members would flourish best and rear the greatest number of offspring. The Dalai Lama the 14th also says, if you want others to be happy, practice compassion. If you want to be happy, practice compassion. Besides survival, compassion makes us more attractive to potential mates. In various studies, both men and women agree that kindness is one of the most highly desirable traits. Compassion helps us connect with others, maintain and mend relationships, and move forward in our spiritual and life journeys while fostering emotional intelligence and well-being. In a Johns Hopkins study released last year, research showed that among healthcare workers, some of our most important and overworked friends and family in recent years, showing more compassion is associated with less burnout. Multiple studies support that being a giving, others-focused person is linked with a longer life and can buffer the effects of stressful events on mortality risk, as well as maintain vitality and cognitive function as we age. Focusing on selfless acts has even been shown to have pain-relieving effects. Within the professional realm, a University of South Carolina study found that people with pro-social motivation, those who are kinder and more generous, tend to have higher incomes compared to selfish people. And by the way, research also shows that you have to be genuinely altruistic, not strategically helping others or forced into it, or it won't work. What about compassion for self? Ooh, now we're getting into the rough stuff. In psychology, self-compassion is defined as extending compassion to yourself in instances of perceived inadequacy, failure, or general suffering. On her website, selfcompassion.org, American psychologist Dr. Christian Neff has elaborated, saying that self-compassion is composed of three main elements: self-kindness, common humanity, and mindfulness. Self-kindness means that you are warm towards yourself when you encounter pain and personal shortcomings. Rather than ignoring them or hurting yourself with criticism. Compassion for self also involves recognizing that suffering and personal failure is a part of the shared human experience rather than an isolating factor. Mindfulness involves taking a balanced approach to your negative emotions so that feelings are not suppressed or exaggerated. Negative thoughts and emotions are observed with openness so that they are held in mindful awareness. Mindfulness is a state of mind that is non-judgmental and receptive so that we can process our thoughts and feelings as they are. Conversely, mindfulness requires that we don't over-identify with mental or emotional phenomena so that we don't suffer adverse reactions. Albert Ellis, the great psychologist, calls it, quote, unconditional self-acceptance. Other experts have called it internal empathizing and having acceptance and empathy for yourself as well as focusing on caring for yourself. The latest advertising buzzwords, self-care. Research indicates that those of us who practice self-compassion experience greater psychological health than those who do not. It is positively associated with life satisfaction, wisdom, happiness, optimism, curiosity, social connectedness, personal responsibility, and emotional resilience and intelligence. All parts of prosocial behavior. When we care about ourselves, we're willing to experience discomfort for our well-being. Research shows that self-compassionate people are more likely to exercise, eat well, get regular medical checkups, and generally engage in health-promoting behavior. This brings us to our call to action. The UUA website states, quote, the work that we do together to build a world in which all of us are free and thriving is interrelated. When we ground our spirits, grow our skills, and act strategically for justice in deep relationship with each other and our movements, we choose to side with love. End quote. This means that as UUs, we offer and encourage multiple opportunities to find your passion to serve. While this is not an exhaustive list by any means, here are various committees and teams at Red River UU that impact the community. Please seek out any of our members to be directed to the right people to talk to in order to join and serve on any of these communities/teams. Social justice, which involves dealing with things like racism, discrimination, gender justice, gun control, voting rights, and homelessness. The LGBTQ++ welcoming team. We have outreach at local events such as Earth Day. We do the kids' clothing exchange. We participate with Grace and Pride in Pride Prom and the Grace and Pride Festival, as well as hosting our own events such as Friendsgiving, the Family Holiday Celebration, and the Fairy and Fae Tea Party. We have our green team, how we continue to embody our principles by taking care of our earth. Our caring team, working for our congregation to show empathy and compassion to members in crisis. There are also the committees that are directly related to the functioning of our church. We have our board of trustees, our worship team, the building and grounds team, our greeters, the food teams, and more importantly, the stewardship campaign. But what about every day? The small acts, remember, are just as important as the grand gestures. A simple act of compassion can make a positive impact on someone else's day as well as your own. I've striven to practice and teach my children and grandchildren to smile at others as they encounter them. It's free, and you never know how it may impact a person. It literally can save a life. Plus, no matter your mood, it will make you feel better since it releases positive chemicals into your brain when you do it. Pay it forward. Buy a stranger's coffee or meal. Give to someone who is desperately in need. There is a story of a man whose economic situation was less impacted by the Great Depression than his neighbors. He began to hire local unemployed men to build a rock wall on his property. Then he told them he changed his mind about where he wanted them, so he had them move it a little. Once they were done, he said he didn't like it there, so he paid them to move it again and again. That wall moved many times until all the men were able to get jobs again. Compassion lies at the heart of all religious, ethical, and spiritual traditions, calling us always to treat all other living things as we want to be treated ourselves. It's not just doing, it's living our principles, our vision of the beloved community that is inclusive, kind, and free of the evils that are inflicted on humanity. As we grow in our consciousness, there will be more compassion and more love. And then the barriers between people, between religions, between nations will begin to fall. Yes, we have to beat down the separateness. Ram Dass. Thank you.